My name is Neal. I am a dairy farmer, cheesemaker located in Chelan, right above the tunnel.
Lori Neal is a Chelan farmer who creates artisan cheeses thanks to the help of her small herd of dairy cows. Last year, her dairy farm and others on the West Coast were selected to share in $690,000 worth of grants through the Dairy Business Innovation Initiative, a federal reimbursement program managed by the Department of Agriculture. Then, after spending thousands of dollars for new equipment, Lori found out the Trump administration had frozen the reimbursement funds. NCWLIFE went to visit Laurel's Crown Farmstead to find out what happened next.
I got started, it was something that intrigued me, but you couldn't find supplies. It was sort of like winemaking back in the days when you used bread yeast, to start. And so I couldn't find supplies, so I kind of put it aside. And then in 2010, I found a company, New England Cheesemaking, that sells specifically for people who want to get into home cheese making. So I got to playing around with it, found a couple milk sources, and we decided that was probably something that I could do as a business. I took Washington State University's beginning cheese making class, and then I took their short courses. And then beyond that, it really is just a lot of spectacular failures to learn how to do it. This is Dolly, and that's Jolene, if you're picking up any kind of theme here.
Oh, I see. Well, Reba just pushed Jolene out of the way of my hand so she could get some pets.
Yes, Reba has some attitude. So, and this is Pearl over here. She and Reba are both expecting their first this year, probably in July.
All right.
So what you see here is we use compost bedding. So once a day for sure, sometimes twice a day depending on how wet it is. We put fresh straw down. I buy a semi-load of straw from out in the basin. We also buy 3 semi-loads of hay because I can't produce enough here. And then we just let it build up. I have to empty out a little bit of it, as you've seen off and on, but this is the only compost we have. So it's about 80% straw, 20% cow waste. And we put it over there and let it age out for a year. And then we put it back on the pasture. But the advantage to compost bedding, I can come out here and put a compost thermometer down in there, and I've registered 140 degrees about 12 inches in. So what happens is their waste has already started composting. And so one of the things we always do is people are always so concerned about the cows when it gets to be negative 12. And so that we'll get emails and on Facebook, are the cows okay? Are the cows okay? Yep, they're fine, and we'll take a picture of the thermometer and show them.
They can rest on the rising heat.
That's right. It's like sitting on an electric blanket.
Never been licked by a cow before. That was like a giant cat.
Yeah. My granddaughter got it from Lola the other day, and she's 14 months old, and Lola's tongue is about this long. And poor Kenzie was just like... One of the advantages to Jersey milk is that there's so much more, that it's very rich. And so I actually get more cheese per gallon than I would get, say, if I had Holstein milk. If I make cheese 3-4 times a week, I'm making 70 pounds per batch in my current setup. So a couple 100 pounds a week, depending on how much milk they're producing. Depends on how fast I make it. I started with making hard cheeses, so I have one called Jersey Girl. I do Badger Mountain Blue, more in the summertime. Blue's a little funky to work with, so it takes more, but Badger Mountain Blue. And then I have some other hard cheeses. Once in a while I'll do something for fun. So with Lake Chelan Brewing's Irish Prizefighter Stout, I've done a washed cheese. So I make the curd and then I pour the stout over the top of it and let it soak in and then age it. And I've done, some winery wipe downs. And then we got into some soft stuff, fromage blanc, um, urban garlic, and that has sold really well. We did feta last year. It kind of just depends on what mood I'm in. We're currently using a 60-year-old pasteurizer, and it's been a workhorse. There's no doubt about that. But we wanted to improve that situation. We're limited on our smaller equipment with how many wheels we could press and have them come out looking really good. When you press cheese, you basically are closing the rind. When you put it into the mold, it looks, it's curds, and you have to get it pressed, otherwise it will mold clear through the center. So if your rinds are not smooth, then you risk waste, and you risk waste from not only mold but also from excessive drying and that kind of thing.
But with this structure, you're bringing cows in here individually for milking?
Yep, we bring them up. They come right up the run there. We got the run kind of mucked up right now, but we open the gate. I can usually stand down here and yell for them, and they'll come up. And they come up through here, through the run, and I pen them in. So I have 3 stalls here because we've been milking with a vacuum pump. I've only been able to milk 2. This used system that we were lucky enough to find is such that we can add on to it and set up to milk a 3rd cow.
You lead the cows in here, they sit in these corrals, they can feed
Yep.
while you're milking them from the lower
Yep.
tier? Okay.
Yep, and I don't have to bend over, basically. Sanitation is everything. Our entire life revolves around sanitation on the farm. So we wipe down the udders, wash them down with some soap and water. Make sure everything looks okay. It's nice to be able to be in the pit and have a bird's eye view of the udder up in between, rather than having to get down on the ground. So they come in, they get milk. They're used to the whole system. They'll stand out here and argue about who gets to come in, and they have their system. They only go in, most of them only will go into one particular stall. And they come in and get their pellets. Even the ones that we're not milking, that's one of the ways that I bring them up to get them used to it, especially new moms. By bringing them in ahead of time, I bring them in, give them some pellets, usually in this last one here, give them some pellets as they get familiar with that. Then I wash their teats, even though we're not doing anything with them, wash them and give them some udder mud and that kind of thing. And so by the time they have their calf, then they're ready and they know the drill.
So you had specific pieces of equipment that you wanted to buy. You were approved for the USDA's Dairy Business Innovation Grants. You knew that you had a guarantee of reimbursement if you went out and bought these things. So at some point in January, February, you learned that the grant was on hold.
Yep, February 28th. And we were given the go-ahead to start spending money December 2nd. And it's, as are pretty much all government grants, I think, they're on a reimbursement basis. So you spend and then you turn in your receipts, justify, and then you get reimbursed. Towards the end of January, there was kind of some rumblings, and we were getting ready to purchase the pasteurizer. And we wanted to get in before any increases in cost on stainless steel and that kind of thing. But we asked the question, should we be concerned here? And we were told that the USDA basically was saying, no, things are going ahead as planned. So we went ahead and purchased the pasteurizer. And then kind of we started getting messages from our facilitators that said that USDA was not communicating with them on their questions. And then finally on February 28th, they said all of the funds have been frozen. There will be no reimbursements right now, and we have no idea when that's going to change. having come from a background of grants, the scrutiny of how you spend your money is extreme. You know, like I said, I've worked for a grant program before, and I know what we have. I know what's allowable, and I know what's not allowable, and the amount of scrutiny that every dollar you spend comes under. This is actually our milk processing facility. So comes in here. I have 2 milk tanks. Law requires, that's my storage milk tank. So the law requires that new milk be less than 50 degrees before you add it to previously milked milk. So we bring it in, we put it in here, we drain it back out into the into the bucket, pour it over there and mix it together. And then the white one on the end there is the pasteurizer. This is 145 degrees for 30 minutes. So the milk just is a better quality for cheese making than a high temp. So for example, if I went and bought a gallon of ultra pasteurized milk at the store, it won't coagulate. You can't make cheese out of it. So I bring it in, I pasteurize, then we pump it through here, up in these lines, and over into the cheese vat, comes down into the cheese vat. We're kind of the largest dairy in Chelan County. I mean, I'm it. There's a couple of folks producing milk, but best I can tell, I'm the only cow milk cheese producer in Chelan County. Thankfully, dairy people tend to be really accommodating, so I can call just about anybody in Western Washington with the coalition and get questions answered, which is very cool. So I spent most of last week talking with media outlets and with legislators. Our legislators here were amazing. Their staffs really asked really pointed questions. And then finally, after 5 days, for whatever reason, the USDA completed their review of the grant and released the funds 5 days later. You know, we're in a much better position than other people that we've talked with. You know, there were people that they had money that they had taken out of their day-to-day operations and then found that it was not going to be reimbursed. And that was a significant hit for those folks. Thankfully, we'd gone in with eyes wide open and didn't pull money out that we had to depend on. There were a lot of people asking a lot of questions. And one of the farmers that I work with for my supplies had commented on a post that someone made, and that was that American farmers need these type of programs in order to remain competitive. And I totally agree with that, because here we do what is best. I mean, we pay a decent living wage. We give reasonable working hours, but it does give us a disadvantage in places that don't have those requirements. And so these types of grants offer us the opportunity to innovate and expand where otherwise we might not have the opportunity because we just can't get far enough ahead to do that. We have the back side of the milking parlor here, and immediately we're dealing with, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms. So immediately coming in from the milking parlor, because we don't want manure and stuff tracked into any processing. So we don't access this building directly from the milking parlor. So we come into an anteroom where boots and clothes and that sort of thing can be changed. we'll have our milk processing back in the back there. That's where that pasteurizer and the tanks will be. And then this corner here will be the cheese make and walk-in coolers or walk-in aging rooms and stuff. Off the front there will be a little room. You can come in and see directly into the cheese make facility. I've worked, in the small facility for so long, and it worked really well. I mean, it was a good facility for what we were doing. So, but this gives us a chance at being more profitable in the long run. It's not headed out. It gives me a chance to hire someone to help do more things than 80-hour weeks for me. And we've always paid above minimum wage to all of my staff because dairy is dirty and cold and hot and, so, and that's kind of the way you keep people, to be fair. We have a story to tell, and we're local, and I'm not the only local farmer with a story to tell. And there's a lot of us, I think, out there. So if anything else, support your local farmer. Go visit them at the farmer's market. Go find out who they are, because they're living and working here because they want to and they love to. I'm really happy with where we're at. My husband's getting there.